lot. Okay, so how do you automate all the phone calls, all the maid services, all this stuff? Because people listening, I know my followers and listeners, they want to scale this thing up and at least make 10 grand a month,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
And that way they can quit their 9-to-5 job. So
that was my goal.
That was your goal.
That was my goal when I started out.
That's a good goal. I mean, $10,000 a month. Put it this way, the average doctor in America, believe it or not, makes $120,000 a year.
So we're not talking a lot of properties to do this.
Yeah.
To get to 6 figures if that's your goal. But what happens is you have all this management essentially. And I was so excited to quit my job. I quit after about the 5th listing. I quit my job. And I thought, okay, I got all the time in the world now, but then it started creeping back. This business started taking more of my time. So I started thinking, okay, how can I emulate the hotel industry? Everything I did was based on the hotel industry. I would look at what they're doing and try to do the same thing. And I said, well, you know, hotels have a front desk. I don't have a front desk. And I need a front desk manager. I need somebody. So what can I do? Well, I could create a virtual front desk. How would I do that? Well, I need somebody that can message these guests back, coordinate with the cleaners, do all these different things. And I started looking around and I found out there were actually services that do this. They'll take like 5% of your income on Airbnb and then they'll manage it all. So there's services that do this. There are also VAs. There's a lot of VAs now that specialize in doing nothing but managing Airbnbs. So you can go on to Upwork, find a VA.
So you go to Upwork and you search Airbnb management.
Yeah, and you'll find people pop up.
VAs, by the way, stands for virtual assistant.
Yeah, virtual assistant. Yeah, so virtual assistant. So this is the way everything's going nowadays. You don't have to get a VA in the States. You can get somebody in the Philippines or whatever.
As long as they speak English.
Yeah, they need to speak English and they probably need to be able to get on the phone once in a while. And so you essentially teach them how to do the management that you do. Airbnb requires that people be able to text you and call you, so you have to have a phone number in there, but that doesn't have to go to you necessarily.
So you don't put your phone number.
What I do is I tell people, please don't call me or text me, message me through the app. That's the best way to reach me, because I want to teach them to go through the app, which is going to be watched by my VA, for example.
So Airbnb app,
they message you
people.
Direct
messaging. It has a whole internal system, and you can give virtual assistants access to that.
You give them access. And
how many VAs does it take for, let's say you've got 12 properties? Do you need one full time that you're paying $5 grand a month, $2 grand a month, $3 grand?
One, and it's 20, 30 hours a week. What I found is across my business, it takes about 5%. So 95 cents of every dollar I get to keep. If I outsource, I'd rather pay 5 cents and do nothing than make 100 cents on every dollar and do it all myself. So I'm always looking to outsource and automate everything.
So now we've kind of got a complete system. Let's talk about, let's take devil's advocate here. Number one, I don't think I can convince somebody to do a profit share with me.
Well, I was a landlord for many, many years as a real estate investor, had a whole bunch of units that I was renting out long-term to people. So I know what it's like to be a landlord. And I had to kind of put myself in the shoes of other owners, because when I first started meeting with people, I generally got no's 99 times out of 100. People were like, nah, I don't want to do that. And I was trying to ask myself, well, why? And I would ask them that. I would say, why? I don't mind me asking. I'm not trying to convince you. Just tell me why you said no to me. And they would say, well, here's the reason, or here's the objection. And what I started thinking, the more people I talked to and the more I thought about what I wanted as an owner, I was really only looking for 2 things. If you can convince me that you're going to pay the rent on time with no hassle, and my property will never be damaged and kept in impeccable shape, I will lease to you. And I generally will lease to somebody like that. So all I had to do was convince an owner that not only will I do those 2 things, but I'm the best selection of any of the people that are calling them. And then I give them several reasons why. So I'll give you, I like to play the tenants versus guests game. So we'll do this right now. So I'm going to say a statement and you say whether you think it's a guest or a tenant. In other words, somebody signing for a year that would most likely do this. So somebody, let's say, works on their car in the driveway and spills oil everywhere and takes the wheels off and leaves it there for 6 months. Is that going to be?
Yeah, that's a tenant.
That's a tenant, right?
Not an Airbnb guest.
Not an Airbnb guest. They're probably Ubered in, right?
Right.
Somebody's dog destroyed the backyard, filled it with holes over the course of a year.
Tenant,
That's
not
a tenant, right? I don't allow pets in most of my listings, so you can't bring your dog there. Somebody refuses to leave the property. Right. You have to evict them.
For sure, tenant.
You never have to evict an Airbnb person because there's no lease. They don't have any right to that property. They're a guest.
Yeah, so nobody says, hey, I've been here 2 days.
Yeah, you got to evict me now.
The police will put them right out.
You got to evict me now, So that doesn't happen. And then let's say somebody starts modifying the property. They start painting the interior weird colors. They start, removing things, changing things about the house without permission of the owner.
Yeah, that's all.
Put a satellite dish on the roof. That happens all the time. That doesn't
So
happen.
basically what you're saying is you tell people a tenant's way more dangerous in many ways.
Yeah, I say, look, my guests are going to respect your property, and it's going to be kept to the kind of condition that you've never seen before, because every couple days I'm going to bring my cleaning crew in.
Right.
And you get to come in too. If you want to come in and see your property on Wednesday, come on in, because I have a window.
Tenant, you usually don't go see the property for 1 year. So you basically tell people, let me control your property. We'll do it on a profit share, or I'll lease it from you. It sounds scary that I'm going to let Airbnb people in, but
yeah,
they're not there long enough, and I'm sending a cleaning crew every 2, 3, 4, 5 days.
Yeah, your property will look like these beautiful photos that I'm making here every day. And
yeah, because it's also in your best interest as the property hacker.
I won't make any money.
You don't want the place to get destroyed, or else you're not going to be able to re-rent it out. So your interests are aligned. Plus, do you ever mention that Airbnb has $1 million policy?
I do. I mentioned that. And I also tell them, look, I'm still going to commit to you for a year. So if I sign a lease with somebody, I will commit to you for a year. Right. These guests aren't going to pay you the rent. I'm going to pay you the rent. So you don't have to worry about that. And then I tell them, look, your property is going to be covered by the host protection insurance, because Airbnb gives every single host a $1 million coverage of insurance. And then above and beyond that, if you'd like me to, I can insure your property. And I don't offer this unless they ask. But I don't really care if 4 out of 5 people say no to me, because it's not a big deal to set up 5 appointments on a weekend on a Sunday, go look at 5 properties, and one person says, yeah, I'll do it. Yeah. So it's just a numbers game.
It's a numbers game.
It's a numbers
game. Do you ever approach people by email, or you prefer in person?
I've found that it does not work, because remember, they've got all these emails coming in from truly prospective tenants that are like, hey, I want to see your property on Saturday. Yes. And then you're sending them something else that they're like, wait, I don't get it. So I don't ever like to pitch them over the phone or on email, only in person. And after I built rapport with them.
Do you ever work with realtors? Find a realtor and say, look, every property you find me and get me in front of the landlord, I'll pay you.
If they're my friend, I do. But most realtors don't get it, and they look at it as too difficult to explain to an owner.
Right.
And they don't want to do anything that it requires extra work on their part.
Yeah.
And they'll butcher it. They'll go to the client and they'll butcher you, trying to explain to them.
That's an opportunity, by the way, for people listening that are realtors. Specialize in helping match up people like you, property hackers, with landlords.
With landlords that are on the MLS with rentals, certainly.
And take a cut.
And the other new thing, this is something that I haven't talked about before, is the super awesome source for finding properties now is to go look at properties that are on the market.
Yes, for sale.
And offer to lease option them.
By the way, if you don't know what that is, you go into a property that's for sale. You say, listen, I'm not quite ready to buy, but I'll lease it. And a portion of my monthly rent, if I decide to buy, will be credited towards that. And you can generally decide on a price ahead of time.
You decide ahead of time.
So if the market goes up, sometimes you have to pay, I don't know if you're having to pay a little lease option premium.
It depends on how motivated the person is.
Yeah. What about for people who lease options too complicated? Because that is a great way to start.
That's more advanced way. But the cool thing with the lease option is there's zero risk other than the money you put down. So I can say, hey, Tai, I'm going to give you $100 for this option, which gives me the right to buy your property for $300,000 up to 2 years from now.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I'll take that deal. So I have this lease, and every month I pay you for the lease. And then 2 years from now, that property's worth $340,000, $350,000, whatever.
Yeah, you locked it in.
And I locked it in. Now, when I get out of my B&B, I just made $30,000 after paying the realtor or something. So
if the property value goes down, if there's a recession, you walk away from the lease.
You walk away. It's an option. Yeah.
What about going to people who have properties for sale? If you don't want to do a lease option, just going, you look for properties that have been on the market too long, 8 months ago. Listen, this thing ain't ever going to sell. Let me start making you some profit.
Oh, yeah. And look for stale listings.
Yeah, stale listings. There's lots of stuff that have been on the market for 6, 12. I mean, there's stuff been on the market more than 12 months.
And you know what we do is we look for places that are furnished, because we see it in the listing. It's already furnished. So now we have a furnished property that's sitting vacant, not making them any money. And we say to them, if you're not willing to lease it to us for the full time, why don't you just lease it to us for the weekdays?
Yeah, because then on the weekends they do. That's what I was going to say. Open houses
and
are
it's
usually
free money.
On Sunday.
It's free money for them, free money for us, no long-term commitment.
And you say, well, make sure it's cleaned.
You just give us a 30-day notice, so we can, if we have bookings, we don't accept bookings more than 30 days out.
Right.
We cancel and walk away.
And usually if they actually sell the property, things usually take more than 30 days.
Usually, generally. Somebody asked me, are there enough properties to do Airbnb with? And I said, there are millions of properties every day coming on the market. Not only on the market for sale, but on the market for rent.
And the only people getting hurt by this is the hotel industry.
Yeah. Yeah, the hotel industry is not happy.
Because people ask, what's the catch? Like, Brian, Tai, if you're talking about this, one, why isn't everybody doing it? My answer to that is simple. People are sheep. They take a long time to catch things. If you understand psychology, there's something called commitment consistency bias. If you look at Sigmund Freud, you know, he talked about the ego, the id, the super, you know, there's all these parts of our personality. And one of them is this story we tell about ourselves. So what happens is traditional real estate investors, they've built up their life. Their friends perceive them as like, I'm the guy who buys and flips properties. Yep. They watch the TV shows. Yep. They identify with that. When something new comes, people just blindly let it go by. Because
we're still early in the wave because Airbnb is about
5 years from now, it's not going to be as easy. Everybody's going to be doing this.
Yeah, Airbnb is about 10 years old. It's really only gained its huge momentum in the last 5 years, I would say. And it's still growing rapidly.
I would say even now.
Maybe even less.
I would say only in the last year, consistently have my friends gone, I'm not going to get a hotel. I'm going to get an Airbnb. A year or two ago,
well,
you go to
the
London.
awareness is widespread, but if you ask 10 people, have you stayed in an Airbnb, the numbers are still very, very low.
2019, 2020, that's your window to do this. Maybe 2021, because you can come in, landlords are wide open.
Yeah.
The second more landlords start getting approached by this, they're going to get pickier and go, okay,
when the tide changes and all the landlords say, oh, no, I'm doing it myself.
That's right.
Which is not happening right now, but it will.
It will.
And I was just talking about this in the car over here. I was driving with a friend of mine. We were talking about how every great idea sounds stupid before it's not.
Real estate investing all hinges on income at the end of the day.
It's all cash flow.
It's all cash flow. Even if you're flipping, it's still cash flow. So you got to ask yourself, how do I stay on the cutting edge? Because if you study the last 100 years of world history, who got the richest? It's always people on the cutting edge. You don't have to be the first. Yeah. Actually, being the first is dangerous because some weird ideas are actually stupid.
Yeah.
Right? But this Airbnb thing, you can Google it. People magazine had an article on the guy in London who made $15 million in 2017. That's years ago.
Yeah, well, the article that got me all jacked up and excited about this was in Forbes. It said the 75 people who make $1 million or more a year on Airbnb. And that article just... 75. 75. And that was written in 2016. Wow. I still talk about it, but it was written in 2016. That number is now in the hundreds.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you make $1 million on Airbnb? And it just caught my attention. I didn't sleep that night because that was where I first really started getting excited about it when I read that. And one of the things that you teach, you teach people a lot of different things, but a lot of the core theme I see across all the things that you teach is learning how to ride the coattails of these multi-billion-dollar companies. Yes. So for example, Amazon, you can make money on Amazon. Yep. You can make money on Facebook doing an agency. You can make money with Airbnb, and we don't have to create a company like that. We can simply find a way to make money inside that platform. Because
Airbnb has invested literally billions in their website. So the cool thing about this is if you've been in the real estate game or haven't been, and you're like, I don't want to learn how to build a website. I don't want to learn how to do social media marketing. Yeah. You go, Airbnb has it all done for you. Literally, their site's not going to go down. It's backed by the best programmers. It's up, redundant server. It's like all here ready for you to go. You've got legitimacy too. Yeah. All you have to literally do if you've listened to this is take good pictures. Yeah. Light the thing up. Get a bagel, eat half of it, put the other half on a plate, drink coffee. And people are such procrastinators. I just go,
well, I think a lot of people that look at a lot of businesses think, I don't know if I could do that. And the thing about this is if you can operate an app on your phone, it's the simplest app to operate. And if you've ever rented a property before in your life, which I would say most people have, unless they're very, very young, then you already know how half of it works. Yeah. It's not rocket science.
Are there any other websites that people should even remotely consider? VRBO?
I mean, VRBO, but only for a very select part of the market. And I really believe that all you need to learn is Airbnb.
Luxury properties. Once people get some, you don't recommend people start
don't
luxury.
Jump into luxury properties because you're talking about a luxury, first of all, a luxury homeowner is not going to be just like, sure, you know, they're going to take some extra convincing and some extra protection, and they're going to want you to guarantee that $8,000, $12,000 rent payment. So you gotta be very careful going into that market, and I wouldn't recommend starting there. But there is a potential in the luxury market because most people don't know this. Most luxury properties in the US are not lived in.
Yeah.
So I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and there's a place called South Abroad. Just magnificent southern mansions down there. And when you walk around down there, it's like a ghost town. The only people you see is other tourists walking around. And I asked somebody that one time. I said, why is there nobody living in here? And they said, oh, these are all second, third, fourth homes for people. Nobody lives here. Like 80% of these homes are just empty all the time. So you'll find that in other luxury markets like Scottsdale, Arizona, a lot of those properties are vacant and they're sitting there not making any money for the owner. And the owner knows probably that they can make money on VRBO or Airbnb, but they don't want to be bothered with it.
By the way, this is the book, How to Become Financially Independent on Airbnb Without Owning Property by yours truly, Brian Page. You know who says yours truly now? If you guys watch Twitter, OJ has his own Twitter account. Have you seen it?
No.
He goes, hi, Twitter world, it's yours truly. So never say yours truly unless you want to be associated with OJ Simpson. Brian Page, not yours truly.